It's 11:47 p.m. You're watching a horror movie alone. The score does that thing where the strings get quiet and tense right before something jumps out of the dark. And before the jump scare even happens, before anything actually scares you, you feel it. That prickle. That tiny electric wave crawling up your forearms, across your shoulders, up the back of your neck. Your hair, what little of it you have left on your arms, stands straight up. You shiver, even though the room isn't cold. Goosebumps. You felt this 1,000 times. Watching a movie, stepping outside on a freezing morning, hearing the first 10 seconds of a song that hits you somewhere you can't explain, standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, listening to your favorite singer hit a note that shouldn't be physically possible. Your skin reacts before your brain has even finished processing what's happening. So what is actually going on here? Why does your body do this weird, involuntary, slightly horror movie thing in response to cold air, fear, and emotionally devastating key changes in pop songs? The answer is older than you. Older than your parents, your grandparents, older than humans as a species. This is a reflex that was already ancient before we ever stood upright. And the wild part is, it's not really built for you at all. It was built for an animal you stopped being millions of years ago. Let's start with what's literally happening on your skin. Goosebumps have a real medical name: piloerection, which sounds like a band name but is actually just Latin for hair standing up. Every single hair follicle on your body, and you have millions of them, is attached to a tiny bundle of smooth muscle called the erector pili. When that muscle contracts, it physically pulls the hair follicle upright, and the skin around the base of the hair puckers slightly, creating that little bump. Multiply that by a few million follicles firing at once, and you get the full body wave you feel during a thunderstorm scene in a movie. Here's the part most people never think about. This isn't a passive thing happening to your skin. It's an active muscular contraction, triggered by your nervous system, specifically the sympathetic nervous system, the same system responsible for fight or flight. Adrenaline floods in, and one of the many things it does is tell those tiny muscles to clench. So goosebumps aren't some weird leftover skin glitch. They're a coordinated, deliberate physiological response. Your body is doing this on purpose. The question is, purpose for what? Now here's where it gets interesting.
To understand why you have this reflex, you have to stop thinking about yourself for a second and think about your ancestors, not your great-grandparents. Your ancestors from roughly 200 million years ago, back when mammals were small, twitchy, mostly nocturnal creatures trying not to get eaten by dinosaurs. Those early mammals were covered in fur. And fur, when it comes to survival, does two enormous jobs. It insulates you against cold, and it makes you look bigger and more threatening to predators or rivals. Piloerection evolved to make both of those jobs better. When a mammal gets cold, fur standing on end traps a thicker layer of air close to the skin, and air is a fantastic insulator. It's the same principle behind a down jacket. Lofted fur equals warmer animal. When a mammal feels threatened, fur standing on end makes it look bigger, puffier, more dangerous than it actually is. Think about a cat arching its back at a strange dog, fur fully puffed, suddenly looking twice its normal size. Think about a porcupine raising its quills, or a startled chimpanzee with its hair standing on end looking suddenly enormous and unpredictable. That's piloerection doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's a built-in bluffing mechanism, a way of saying, without saying anything, I am bigger and scarier than you currently think I am, so maybe reconsider this. This single muscular reflex, contract the erector pili, was solving two completely different survival problems at once. Stay warm, look dangerous. And for a fur-covered mammal, both of those uses work beautifully. The fur actually does something. It actually traps heat. It actually changes your silhouette. But wait, you don't have fur. This is where the story takes its first genuinely strange turn. Humans lost the vast majority of their body hair somewhere between 1 and 3 million years ago, likely tied to our ancestors becoming long-distance, sweat-cooled, persistence hunters on the hot African savanna. thick fur and marathon running in equatorial heat do not mix. So, over evolutionary time, body hair thinned out almost everywhere except a few key spots. But here's the thing, nobody ever bothers to update. The reflex stayed, the erector pili muscles are still there, millions of them, fully wired into your nervous system, still ready to fire at a moment's notice. They just don't have any meaningful hair to erect anymore. So when you get goosebumps today, standing in the cold or watching a horror movie, your body is running a 200 million year old subroutine on hardware that no longer has the part it was designed to move. It's like still hearing your car's turn signal click after you've removed the actual blinker bulb. The mechanism fires, the function it was built for just doesn't exist anymore. Your goosebumps in the cold genuinely do nothing useful. They don't trap meaningful heat because 2 millimeters of nearly invisible arm hair is not insulation. You're not going to survive a Canadian winter on the strength of your forearm peach fuzz standing up. This is a vestigial reflex, a muscle memory from a body plan we no longer have.
Now here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. If goosebumps from cold are just a leftover glitch with nothing left to do, why do you also get them from music? From awe? From watching footage of astronauts looking back at Earth for the first time? This isn't cold, and it isn't a predator. There's no fur to puff, no heat to trap, and yet the exact same muscular reflex fires. Researchers call this phenomenon frisson, a French word borrowed specifically because English didn't have a good one for aesthetic chills. Frisson tends to hit during unexpected musical shifts, sudden key changes, a vocalist hitting an impossibly sustained note, a crescendo that builds tension and then releases it all at once. Brain imaging studies have shown that frisson activates the same neural reward circuitry as food, sex, and addictive substances, specifically a dopamine surge in regions like the nucleus accumbens. Your brain is treating an unexpected, emotionally powerful surprise the same way it treats a primal reward, and it's borrowing the goosebump reflex to express it. Why would that connection exist? The leading theory is that emotional goosebumps are hijacking old threat and awe circuitry that originally evolved for something else entirely. The feeling of confronting something vast, overwhelming, or beyond your control. Ancient humans likely got this reflex while standing at the edge of a cliff, witnessing a thunderstorm roll across open plains, or staring up into a sky absolutely saturated with stars in a way no modern city dweller will ever experience. Awe and fear share a surprising amount of neurological overlap. Both involve a sense of being small in the face of something enormous. Both involve uncertainty. Both spike adrenaline. So when a song builds tension and then resolves it in a way your brain didn't predict, you are getting a small, safe, controlled dose of the exact same biological alarm system that used to fire when your ancestors stood at the edge of genuinely dangerous, overwhelming terrain. That's not your body malfunctioning. That's your nervous system reusing old wiring for an emotional experience it was never originally built to handle. Because evolution doesn't build new systems from scratch when it can cheaply repurpose an old one. There's a social layer to this too. Some researchers have proposed that shared frisson experiences, an entire stadium getting goosebumps during the same chorus, an entire room going silent during the same orchestral swell, functioned as a kind of synchronized emotional signal in early human groups. Group cohesion, the same thing that made shared rituals so powerful for prehistoric communities, may have found one of its physical expressions through this exact reflex. A tribe that collectively shuddered at the same dramatic moment in a story being told around a fire wasn't just having a nice time. They were bonding through a shared, involuntary, full-body signal that something significant had just happened. You can still see a faint echo of that today. Watch a crowd at a concert during the loudest part of the song everyone came to hear. Hundreds of strangers, simultaneously covered in goosebumps, connected for 3 seconds by an ancient reflex none of them consciously chose to activate. So what does this actually tell us? Goosebumps are a perfect example of evolution's laziness, in the best possible sense. Nature rarely deletes old code. It repurposes it. A reflex built 200 million years ago to puff out fur for warmth and intimidation never got uninstalled when we lost the fur. It just sat there, fully wired, waiting for new inputs. And somewhere along the way, your nervous system started routing entirely new experiences through that same ancient pathway. Fear, awe, music, nostalgia, the absolute gut punch of watching your favorite character finally win. None of that has anything to do with thermoregulation or looking bigger to a predator, but your skin doesn't know that. It just knows the wiring diagram, and it fires the same way it always has. So the next time you're standing outside on a cold night, or the bridge of a song does that thing where it suddenly goes somewhere your brain didn't expect, and your arms prickle up in that familiar wave, you're not having some modern emotional moment. You're triggering a defense mechanism your ancestors used to look bigger to a leopard. It's just that nobody told your skin the leopard left a very, very long time ago.